Hey, welcome to another episode of Kahnversations. My name is Ryan Bailey. So today we have a great episode for you. We have one of my favorite actors here at Leslie's, Lisa Linke. She is incredible. So she actually is one of our teachers that teaches a class called the Intensive, which is kind of one of the first classes that you would take when you come to Leslie's. It's a monster of a class. And for Leslie to entrust Lisa to teach that class it kind of says everything that you need to know about Lisa, just about her talent, her dedication, and her ability to teach what we do here. But not only is she a teacher, she is an amazing actor and performer herself. Just recently, listen to her credits. She guest star on Grey's Anatomy, the Netflix show Love, a little show called Modern Family, a little show called This Is Us. She created her own show, Dog Moms, which is out there. She started off in Chicago. She came up doing improv. She worked and taught for Second City. She's pretty much done everything that us actors want to do. So I think this is a really great conversation, and something that we talk about in the podcast today is not only having a passion for your art, but having the skill of your art to not only do it great on take one, but to be able to do it great on take 27. You need to have some kind of skill, something in your toolbox that will allow you to keep going take after take, long after the inspiration that you have on that first take is gone. I was recently reading this book, Bryan Cranston's autobiography. You know him as Walter White from Breaking Bad, but he said sometimes he directed a couple episodes of Breaking Bad, and he's really enjoying directing episodes. But when he would bring actors in to audition for him, if he sensed nervousness from the actor, even if he knew they were amazing actors, he sometimes wouldn't go with the nervous actor that he could eventually get to be an amazing actor. He would go with the person that was amazing right there and then, because sometimes these sets are high pressure situation. A lot of people are depending on you to be able to get the job done. And he wanted people that could get the job done. And I think that's such an interesting point, is that's why you need to work your craft. So you can not only be good on that first take, but you can be good on that 27th take that they need to get because the lighting just isn't right. You need to be good every time. You need to be undeniable, as Leslie says. And that's kind of what we try to do here, is to make you undeniable, to keep you good every one of those takes. Because people can sense you're nervous. People can sense if you're going to maybe fumble the ball before you get the touchdown. So that's been on my mind lately after reading that, and after talking to Lisa, it just kind of solidified my thoughts on that. But anyways, also I think Lisa is so great because, you hear about her career and it's kind of firing on all cylinders. It's like everything is working, but we also talk about the notion of wanting more, to keep pushing and to really want more. It's never over for us as actors. You have to keep pushing. You have to keep creating. You have to keep working, because we're all we have. We're the captain of our ship. We control our business, and our business is ourselves. So please enjoy this conversation. Enjoy Lisa Linke. She's amazing. Thank you guys so much for listening. Please, if you are enjoying these podcasts, leave us a review on iTunes. And also feel free to reach out to me at any time that you want. Ryan@lesliekahn.com is my email address. And if you're interested in hearing more about Leslie and what we do here, go to www.lesliekahn.com. Enjoy. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, Lisa Linke.
Hi.
Hello. Okay, so we start this the same way always. Where did you grow up? Where were you born? All that kind of stuff.
First of all, thank you for having me
Oh,
here.
stop.
I was born, this always sounds like such a long yarn. I am a born and bred Midwestern girl.
Yes.
And I was born in Champaign, Illinois, Champaign-Urbana, home of the University of Illinois.
Sure.
And I lived there. I grew up there. It's a lovely place to grow up in. There's like an amazing park district, so there's great parks all around.
Well, what do you think about it? I've talked with a lot of people that grew up in the Midwest that were actors. What do you think it is about the Midwest that kind of breeds actors in certain ways?
I feel like I said this the other day to somebody that like Midwest is very familiar with shame. Like it's all about like community shame and like personal accountability shame. So like, I feel like that's different from East Coast where people are like, that's not my fault. In the Midwest, people are like, that's my fault. So I feel like that's a part of it.
That kind of introspection that it breeds at a young age.
Yeah. And I just think that so many people in the Midwest feel connected, but also who really truly understands themselves when they're young and growing up. I mean, unless you have like, true therapists in your family. And even then, like, I had friends who had therapists in there as parents, and that was a weird house too. But I just think that in the Midwest, because there's such that feeling of community, and I'm kind of spitballing this as I say it, but because there's such a sense of community, if you don't feel connected, you immediately feel apart.
Yeah.
And so that kind of longing and yearning I think it makes people become actors.
What got you started becoming an actor? Like, were you always in the school plays?
Yes. Well, my mom's best friend, who's no longer with us, Irene, she would always call me Sarah Bernhardt when I was 4 because she was like, you were so dramatic about everything. They'd be having their dinner party. They had a supper club once a month, and I would march in when it was at our house, and I would be like, Mom, Craig will not let me watch TV with him. Like, I was so dramatic about everything. So
was it dramatic, or were you wanting everybody to see you?
Yes. Oh, I enjoyed having all eyes on me. In fact, my mom remembers a story because I was 4 years younger, than my brother. And every day after school at dinner, we would sit around the table very early on, and we would talk about the day, the exciting stuff about the day. And I never had anything exciting. Well, one day my mom remembers that we're sitting there, and I pipe up and I said, well, I had something exciting happen today. And they're like, oh, okay, well, what happened? And I said, Jamie Lieberger kicked Benji Learman in the nuts on the monkey bars, and he fell off and had to have an ambulance come take him away. And then I kept eating, and the whole table was silent. And I was like, yeah, of course, they'd never heard me use the word nuts before. Like, they were shocked, and of course, then I just thought that was amazing. So then I kept going, I need to.
Now, is that exactly how you do a room now for auditions?
I do.
You do the same ball story?
I do. I say in 3rd grade, Jamie Lieberger kicked, Benji Learman in the nuts.
It actually wouldn't be bad. Like, what's going on with you? Well, in 3rd grade,
Jamie Lieberger kicked Benji Learman in the nuts on the monkey bars, and he the ambulance came, and he had to be taken on a stretcher with the huge collar, and I just think I really enjoyed having that attention. And also I think in my family, it was kind of my job to like keep everybody together. So that seemed like a real natural way to do it.
So did you have a theater program in your junior high or high school? Or?
Yeah. In grade school, I played Becky Thatcher.
From Mark Twain?
Yes, from Tom Sawyer.
Yeah.
And I remember I was reciting this poem in the classroom scene. And in my little grade school gym, I smacked my chest like during this moment in the I'd been directed to, but like it reverberated through the gym, and I got a chuckle. And I just remember being like, huh, right? And then in 6th grade, I played a witch in Dracula Baby the Musical, which my brother introduced me to the word of typecasting. Thank you, Craig. And I had a funny song, and I remember them laughing, and I remember being like, huh. And then
you mentioned even that the hitting your chest thing. That's what you guys at home or in your cars, like that's what we call choices. Like, even making a choice back then.
I'm sure I had been directed to do that.
Oh, okay.
But I'm sure I went like a little ham because
but that's what I'm saying. That's
ham.
what sets is when you actually make a choice about something. But it's funny when it's one of the first times you remember ever making a choice. I always find that interesting, you know?
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, my family is like storytellers. My Grammy, who's 107, like,
Oh, wow.
and a half, like just huge storyteller, tells jokes, told me all my funny and dirty jokes, you know, like my uncle, my mom, like just family of storytellers and
Were
performers.
any of them actors?
No. Although my Grammy does tell me that her brother was in Ben-Hur, and he was a driver for... Was it Marlene Dietrich? No, it was some famous. I'll get back to you on who that was, but that she put him in some. He got bit parts in movies, and that's how he made his life out here. But that was like, they were performers, they were musicians, they were, you know.
Yeah.
But nobody was like an artist in my family. No.
So you started doing theater, and then did that just keep increasing in high school?
It did. You know, in high school, I swam competitively, and so girls swimming was in the fall, and that competed with the fall play. And then I would do the spring musical, and I was never...
Wait, is there even a choice? I mean, you liked swimming enough that you'd choose that at the time over acting?
Yeah, because it was such a team sport, and I had like already been swimming and like created and found my little community. And by the time the auditions came around in like October, it was a big conflict.
I think about that now because I was a high school theater actor. Is that I mean, you know, it's just that thought of like what would possess you as a kid still. It'd be like, yeah, I'm going to go say somebody else's words and pretend I'm somebody else. I mean, it sounds fantastical, even though now that's what we're trying to make our lives and our careers doing. But at the time, you're just like, what? You know, sports was always like, you know, you grew up with kids on your block playing sports, you know, and I guess you performed with your friends, but you never... I mean, I guess, I don't know, it just still sometimes, like, cracks me up that a bunch of us would be like, yeah, I want to go sing and dance with my...
I always told stories with my dolls. With my friends, we would play dolls and tell stories. I had such a vivid imagination. I still do. I'm not allowed to watch scary movies. Because,
why?
Truly to this day, when I wash my face, when I stand up in the mirror, I expect to see Michael Myers behind me or Jason. Like, that's what I expect. Were
you one of those people that like can't sleep because you constantly like hearing creaks and stuff like that, or?
Yeah, but also I'll tell you the scariest story of my life that happened right after I saw Scream, and you know, I'm just too.
Just always going.
I'm always going.
Yeah.
And I'm always like, there's always the potential, which is also the problem why I'm an improviser, because like I have to remind myself that not every moment and interaction in my life is an improv scene. Like I don't have to heighten it. I don't have to have the last word. That's so
interesting, but that's such an actor quality. Yeah. You know, sometimes it's an amazing quality, and sometimes it's
real
like
annoying.
You can turn it off, you know, like. But that it's almost like an actor's superpower is finding that gauge of when to turn it on and off. You know, that seems to be, you know, it's awesome that you have that talent, but then it's almost the challenge is to like when to use your superpower.
Yeah, when can I wash my face and not be terrified to open my eyes after?
Well, yeah, I mean, and you're just by yourself. Like you're performing for yourself at that point.
Thank you. I do live alone. I am single. Thank you so much. Yeah.
So
I continued in high school. I did like spring musicals.
Was there debate and all that stuff, speech and debate?
I only did that a little bit.
Yeah.
But like I gave my high school commencement speech, and I think mostly because when we auditioned, like I had that sense of performance. You know what I mean? Like whether it was a little after school specialty or whatever, like who knows? I'm sure. But I had that sense of like, this needs to feel important and grand.
Do you remember your drama teacher back then?
Yeah, his name was Keith Page, and he was our local weatherman, and he also did magic tricks at the Round Barn.
You sound like a well-rounded person.
Listen, let me tell you,
weatherman.
He was a really great guy, and you know, I think that things would have been different. I feel like whatever deity or universal thing you believe in kind of guided me to not get too close to acting early on.
Why do you think that?
Because I think I would have burnt out too quickly, and I wouldn't be here with you right now. I think I would have like done it and burnt out and been like, I hate it, and then gone to business. Instead, I went business.
Wait, so then what happened? So you go to high school, then you go to college in Chicago.
Yeah, so literally freshman year, I auditioned for the fall play just to see if I got a role. If I got a role, I would work it out with swimming or quit swimming. And I got down to callbacks, and like I remember I was like in flow in callbacks. Like I was improvising a little bit. It was great, but I was supposed to be like a younger kid, and I was way taller than the woman who was going to be So I didn't get it. And everybody was like, you should have gotten it. I was like, well, who cares? I'm swimming. It all works out anyway. So I only did spring musicals, but like I'm not the best singer. So I had fun. I was a thespian. Like I had a great time, but I really was then kind of all just across the board in high school. I did everything. I was in every group, every, whatever.
Yeah.
And then when I went to college, I went to Indiana. That was my B school. I never found an A school because I didn't have a plan. I didn't know what I wanted to do. And in Indiana, you could be undeclared for 2 years. And my mom remembers me saying, and she told me that when I went, she said, well, what do you want to major in? And I said, well, I would love to major in theater, but they don't make any money.
So, you're very smart. You were very smart back then.
So I got a degree in sociology, which, as you know, just hand over fist with money.
You're rolling in it.
I am. So then I had to go to grad school. But
So you went to grad school too?
I did. I have my master's in human resources and my MBA.
And where did you get your MBA from?
Back at Illinois. I went to IU, yes. And then I came back to Champaign.
And then you said you wound up in business.
Yeah, so I have my MBA, my master's in human resources, and then I ended up...
During that whole time, nothing like... did theater at all come up in any sort of college aspect?
I mean, I performed when we had like IU Sing. I performed in that. I performed in whatever thing my sorority was putting on, either through Rush or some dumb skit or whatever. And like, I can see now looking back that like, that's where my passion was, but I didn't have any outlet for it. So it was just kind of, everybody was like, well, Linke will do it.
The verbiage for like
the verbiage or like any kind of classes or instruction or, do you know what I mean? And I kept thinking like, that's not what I'm going to do. It just comes easy for me. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. So you finished there. So, I mean, was the goal to be a big time businessman and
no, I mean wait, do we cuss on this podcast?
Yeah, you
okay.
do.
I fucking graduated with a sociology degree, a minor in psychology, and a concentration in economics. And then I went to wait tables in 10 Bar in Atlanta for a couple of years with my best friend. So you
really already were an actor.
I was. And truthfully, as an actor, I've never waited tables or 10 Bar because I did it beforehand. Yeah. So like I've had the very flip-flop experience. But while I was there, then I went to the garage. I can't remember the name of the theater in Atlanta, and I saw my very first improv show, and I was like, "This is awesome! I love this." And when I went back to grad school, then
was it long form or short form?
All short form. And was it groundbreaking? No, but they were having fun, and I was like, "I know I can do that."
And that spoke to you. See, that's really interesting too. A lot of people will say, like something that will speak to them, but also, I know I can do that. I want to do that, and it's not a cocky thing, but it's like, oh, I think I can do that. You know,
it's like I feel like when it's something that is your passion, when you see it, it's not like a desire, or it's not like a hobby where you look and you say that's something I'd like to do. It just speaks to you, and you're like, I can do that. I want to do that. I know I can do that. I can do that, and I think I would be good at it. And then I went back to grad school, and I saw in the Daily Illini in the paper an ad. A woman was putting together an improv group, and there were auditions, and I went, and I knew nothing about it, and I got in, and I fell in love with it.
And you see, and this is another thing I always think too, is that you were probably having fun.
I was having so much fun.
And that's before you even really knew any kind of rules of improv. So
yeah, I legitimately, we were passing the energy around the circle, and I like literally pushed the guy next to me, and she was like, okay, we're not going to physically touch somebody. And now looking back, I'm like, well, she really needed to set that up a little bit better. But okay. I mean, yeah, I didn't know what I was doing.
When you have fun, it almost kind of, it almost doesn't matter. Like that kind of energy it's so natural and so fun to watch. And it really can carry you when you don't exactly know what you're doing yet.
Yeah, and also like, it was such an outlet for me. At the time, I was like, this will be such a great break from studying. But I think my core, my soul was like, this is what I want to be doing.
Yeah.
And everything else has just been because I didn't know what I wanted to do. I didn't feel qualified to do anything. You know what I mean? Like I was working this corporate job, and I was traveling around training people, and like, I didn't know what I was doing, and I didn't like it. But it was money, and I was earning money and paying off my, drinking bills from college. So, I was very fortunate, and I'm the first person to admit all of my privilege. Like, I didn't have to pay for college. I didn't have to pay for grad school. I got grants. Like, I've been afforded the luxury of being able to kind of figure out what it is I want to do. And I think it's been really helpful for me, because I think if I would have gone right into acting, I think I would have hated it.
But is there ever any kind of doubts in your mind? Like, I wish I had done this like way younger, so I could have gotten those lean years out earlier.
No. I mean, I say that all the time, but like, I'm just thinking right now, I auditioned for Annie at like the local dinner theater when I was 10, and my mom worked with me to find the right key for Tomorrow. And we found for me the key was in the key of G. And then my music teacher from grade school was the fucking accompanist. And that bitch could not transpose that song into the key of G and kept ruining it. And I was like, I didn't do a good job because the accompanist kept starting over. But you know what? I would have hated acting if I was doing dinner theater at 10. I think I would have hated it. I would have really understood what it means to be an actor because I didn't understand. Now I understand, but I am a hard worker and I love gutting it out and figuring it out. And like, I don't think I had that at 10. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And also, I mean, child actors, I don't know if they really can understand what they're doing.
I mean, I wouldn't imagine that a lot of them have that kind of language or life experience, you know?
Yeah.
So you find improv, but you're still in grad school. So what is the path from there?
So I graduate. I moved to Chicago. I start working at Deloitte & Touche, which is now just Deloitte because
what is that?
Old.
Is that
It's a consulting firm. It was one of the big 5, which are now big 3. Or even, I don't even know what they are anymore. And I loved it. I was in their human resources strategies group. And when I say I loved it, I mean I love the people. Like Deloitte, I cannot speak highly enough about the firm. They're just wonderful, wonderful people. They hired me because they didn't want to lose me, not because they had work for me. So I just rode on the bench for the first 6 months and had 0 work.
You were just walking around with a cup of coffee saying hi to people? Yeah.
Let me tell you, trying to look busy is so exhausting and so like because it was terrible. It was really, truly terrible. It crushed my morale. It is so stressful. There were days that I was like, I just want to be lightly tapped by a bus so I don't get injured, but that I don't have to go to work and have to like explain my reason for being here. It was really stressful.
But you love the people.
Oh, the people are the best. The people are the best. Anyway, some of my best friends are still there, but they're mostly administrative staff because they were always in the office. So I started taking classes at Second City at night.
Now, Second City, we've talked about that before on this podcast, but that is one of, if not the biggest place that you could actually study improv, and they usually take their improvisations and turn it into sketch. And it's a really amazing thing that have like a fabled history of how many amazing performers have come out of there. Bill Murray, John Belushi. I mean,
pretty much the entire first cast of Saturday Night Live. And if you go back even further, Alan Arkin, Alan Alda, Ed Asner, Joan Rivers, who looked the same the entire time. And then moving forward, you're Tina Fey, Rachel Dratch, Tim Meadows.
I saw Rachel Dratch do a show at Second City.
Oh, what a dream.
And it was, before SNL or anything like that. Mm-hmm. And she could not stop cracking up in a scene. She was like an improv about an old lady, but it was the funniest thing I had ever seen, and it was effortless for her, and it was so special. I mean, just watching some of those people that you're like, I can't stop laughing at that person.
Yeah.
I mean, it really is amazing when you see performers like that.
Yeah. I mean, and that was my week. So Monday through Friday, and then I finally started getting staffed, right? So I would either travel or I would drive out all the way out to Naperville. But then on Sundays, I would take my beginning program, levels A through E. And that was before it was like a huge training center. And we were at St. Al's Church in like Lakeview. And, we would walk up 3 flights of stairs to a hot, huge classroom.
Yeah, improv is not ever glamorous.
Let me tell you, go to the training center now because it's huge. But and I mean, I went through with like the same people, A through E. We started our first improv team. It was an independent team. We joined at the Playground Theater there, which is still a team. Obviously, I'm not a part of it, but some of my very dear friends I've met through improv. Actually, most of my very dear friends I've met through improv.
What did improv give you?
I mean, I feel like it kind of saved my life because eventually I knew I wanted to leave my consulting career and be a full-time performer. And I didn't think I was ready to say, I want to be an actor because I wasn't doing any of that in Chicago. So I was like, I'm going to be a full-time improviser, which there's 3 people in the world who make money doing improv. It's TJ, Dave, and Peter Gross, right? And that's it. But it really fed this creative part of me that I didn't know was a need, because in my family, it's all education or business people. So it was really fun to like create and to be acknowledged, and to have audiences love me. Now, don't get me wrong. When I look back at the tape of like my very first show, I'm horrendous, but I'm horrendous with such gusto, and I'm comfortable on stage, which I think is a problem for a lot of people in the beginning. That the audience is like, fine, we'll go with you. Like, you're annoying, but we'll go with you.
It's always fun to watch the back line of any improv show when they're waiting to come out, and like the different, like just people with their hands in their pockets or their arms crossed, or like nerves or whatever. It's really interesting. But were you? You're saying you watched your first performance, but I mean, were you good pretty much immediately? I mean, were you?
No, I mean, but I took it seriously, right?
So you were aware that you weren't nailing it every time, but if you worked at it, it was something that it didn't dissuade you from working.
No, and you know what? Here's the thing too. Especially after independent shows with my team, the guys would love to get together at the bar across the street and just break down every little thing and how they hated what they did. And I hated doing that. I was like, I'm not going to do that, because for me, it was the thing that was making my life tolerable.
Yeah.
Because consulting was not for me.
And you would think if you broke down everything and that went wrong, it would almost kind of take away the magic of like, this is what I love.
I'm not going to do that. I just had the greatest time up there. I don't care if it went well or went bad.
Do you still have the greatest time auditioning and stuff like that today? I mean,
it's a different beast, and I have learned how to make it work for me. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Part of what improv gave me was amazing timing. It gave me, which I also think I just got because I grew up watching about 17,000 hours of TV. But also it gave me hours and hours of live performance, like being in front of a crowd and being able to feed off of them. And I know what they're feeling, and I know if they're hating something, I know when it's time to edit
hold
a
for
scene.
A laugh.
That kind of timing you can't get unless you're in front of a live audience. You know what I mean? Like you have to put in the reps. And the other thing it gave me is it gave me my ability to afford being an actor, because after a while, after I graduated, I went through all the programs, the sketch writing program, the conservatory, all the programs there. And eventually I started teaching and coaching. And so I was making a little money that way. And then eventually I started working for their B2B side, their business to business side, which is now called Second City Works, I think. For a long time it was called Second City Communications. But I would travel around the world and teach. I would facilitate corporate improv workshops.
Oh my God. I always see, because I went through the Groundlings program, and they have a corporate group as well. Mm-hmm. That's hysterical.
And here's the thing with my education and my experience and my passion for performing, like there were very few people in the world who had the qualifications that I did. And so to be able to walk into a room with my degrees and immediately have buy-in from the audience, that I was great at it. I am great at it, but it's not what I want to do with my life.
So in your head, were you, when actors, they have their art, but there's also, and Leslie talks about that here too, is like the business side. So when does the business side in your head start working of like, can I go farther with this? Can I surpass this? And when am I going to start actually going into the straight acting part of things, not just improv and sketch, but
so I got an agent in Chicago, and at the time there was not a lot of stuff shooting in Chicago. Some commercials, a lot of industrials, which is how I became SAG eligible, and I was very grateful. And then also Shameless shoots its exteriors in Chicago.
Yeah.
And my agent, I booked my very first co-star on Shameless, and I played a social worker, and it was so I just looked at it and I was like, I know what this is, right?
When you got the sides.
When I watched enough, I know what it is. I know I don't need to make a meal out of it. Like, this is what this is. And I did it. And I remember the casting director being like, oh, okay, let's do it one more time. Great job, right? And I did it. And then I was fucking flying to New York to do a gig for Second City, and I got noticed that I was put on pin as we were headed to the airport.
Did you even know what that was?
No, I had to ask my friend who did a ton of commercials, and then
they pinned me. What does that mean?
I don't know. And she was like,
trouble?
"That's great." I was like, "Okay." So then I was flying on this like 3-hour flight, and my agent is calling and calling and calling me.
It's when you really hear from them.
I know, and I land, and she was like, "You booked it," and I was like, "That's great." And I remember I was like so hyper. I walked around Times Square that night, like because we always stayed in Midtown, and I was just kind of like, okay, I did this. This is what I'm gonna do. It was great. It was great. And that's
I
when
I was waiting
like,
for that. Like, you have to get back now for a costume fitting. Like, I thought I was waiting for that.
In Chicago, it moves much slower because they know that everybody like cannot survive on acting.
Yeah. Those are the most amazing feelings as actors before you actually even have to do the work of somebody other than your gut telling you that, like, you know, we accept you into this world of being paid to work.
Well, you know, and then I had to call my parents and I was like, I booked this role. And they were like, what is that? What does that mean? You know, and I was like, I don't know.
But then did you get to the point where it's like, well, why weren't you a bigger part?
I mean, no.
Why were you,
they were just kind of like,
fun.
I think my parents are always 100% supportive and 100% terrified. So they're kind of like, so what does that mean? So like, what are you required to do? And like, are you going to be sad if like it gets cut? And like, you know, they're always kind of hedging their bets on what kind of damage control they're going to have to do.
I've made those mistakes in the past where I remember I booked an episode of The Office. Yeah. And I was so excited. I was like, I love that show. My parents love that show. And I immediately called them and they wrote me out of it wasn't, you know, nothing to do with me at all because I was part of the cold open.
Yes.
They wrote it and it was brutal because I had told, like, I could take that, but I was like having to tell my parents.
That's tough.
And they're not dumb. They get it, but at the same time they really they don't really get it. You're like, why did they
get it?
cut
And
it?
also I feel like, you know, for our parents being able to tell people about a show that they know about is a big deal.
Oh, it's huge. Even, you know, they just want, I mean, it is fun. You can always tell it's not smug, but like the self-satisfaction of my parents or any parents when they see their child on screen or somebody tells them that they saw their child on screen. That's even better. They're like, Susie said she saw you last night.
My mom, when I had my first network, when I first, my first co-star on Blackish, my mom had a whole viewing party. They went out to dinner before. And I was like, now listen, I'm pretty sure I'm not cut out, but I could just, and they were like, we don't care. It was just so exciting.
I can't.
For them.
I hear viewing party. I can't handle. I usually like now I won't tell anybody anything.
I don't either.
Yeah.
I tell my mom a little bit now because now she knows the deal. But like it was such an exciting thing for them, and I love that. I love that for them.
What was that first day on set? How was the actual experience of the
Shameless?
co-star? Yeah.
Okay, I did not know what the heck I was doing. Right. So I show up and I check in with I guess whoever's the
first AD
or whoever. Yeah, probably second. And he was really nice. And I was like, here's the thing. I don't know what I'm doing. So you just tell me where to be and when. And he goes, okay, well, here's what's great is we'll always tell you where to be and when. And I was like, cool. Then I was in my trailer. Like I took a trailer selfie. Like I just actually reposted that on my Instagram because I was like, this was my first trailer selfie. And it was just so exciting. And I was so excited. And it was August in Chicago. And we were shooting in a car with no like windows or AC.
It's so muggy
and it was so
humid
hot.
in Chicago.
But I didn't care that like sweat was rolling down my face. And my scene was with Keiko Agena, who had a recurring guest star on it. And I remember that in between each take, I was like dancing because I was so excited. And I had this like one long monologue. I might even remember it. Anyway, like I just had this, and then there was a stunt driver who drove up and I had to open my door at the right time so that the stunt driver would make me shut my door. And then do you watch Shameless?
No, I haven't.
Great. It was fun. It was and then Harry Hamlin drives up and like all this stuff happens. And in between each one, I mean, it was all happening like on my action, which I did not.
Which is a lot for a first time.
But that's what improv really gives me is that like, I'm very tolerant of ambiguity. It doesn't bother me. Like when I get there and they're like, we've changed it. I'm like, great. It's fine. I don't freak out. I don't need more time. I'm just like, tell me, I can hear, I can focus. I got it. Okay. And so I just love it because in between each one, I'm like, da 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 da. And Keiko is like, truly method trying to stay in because she's scared. And so she's like, and I'm like, you rocking it, girl. Like, I probably was such an asshole, but also I didn't care because they moved really fast and it was fun. It was great. I just learned, that set my tone, I think, because every set after that, I feel the same way, which is like, I want to learn how this set does it.
Yeah.
Because that set was crossboarding and it was like fascinating. And how does this set do it? And what does this do? And I'm always asking questions, and I love it.
So you got that, you got the bug, and then
I was like, I'm moving to LA, baby.
I decided I'm going to book more now.
Then I was like, I started thinking about moving. I didn't ideally want to move out here because I just felt like I hated LA.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair.
And then I just also had this idea in my mind that there would not be work for me because I'm not a typical LA actor. I'm not thin. I'm not young. And so I came on here to visit, and my friend Allison Bills, who's just the most delightful, wonderful person, we hung out. I was working in Newport Beach, and I drove up for a day. I had a day in between, a layoff day. And she was like, there's work for everybody here. Everybody can work here. And she was like, why wouldn't you come out here? You know? And at that time I was doing like 8 shows a week, all at different theaters in Chicago, and I'd really peaked. Like Second City was not going to hire me.
You're really treating improv like stand up. You're like doing it every night.
Yeah, I was at like 3 different theaters, but Second City was never going to hire me outside of the business side.
Why?
Know, they kind of really partition that building. Once they see you as X, you kind of can't be Y.
Yeah.
And I have my issues with that building, predominantly that like when one and other theaters in that town, like there's a few that are great and are very egalitarian, but there are some that really, I feel like once they've decided that you don't have talent, that's it. And I disagree with that notion.
Yeah. Do you think, and by the way, because you, like I talked about in the intro, you teach here. You teach the intensive, which is one of the biggest classes we do here for new students. And I taught writing at Second
City. I taught at IO. I taught at all these theaters.
But do you believe that actors can get better? Do you believe?
100%. I did.
That's so. I mean, that is something, because we always talked about that about school. Is that like, well, you have to have natural talent. Like, can you be taught how to act? And it's like, well, you do have to have some kind of natural talent, but we also give you the tools to be able to, I guess, to improve. I mean, to find your special sauce.
I just feel like that zero-sum game sets it up that either you're Meryl Streep or you're not. And I just feel like that's not fair. And I'm pretty sure Meryl Streep didn't come out of the womb delivering monologues in an accent.
We don't have proof.
I mean, that's fair. Yeah. And I'm also pretty sure that I can look at people's careers. I can go back and look at people's film career and see them improving. You know what I mean? I can see famous people's trajectory of their craft.
Yeah.
And it's just so crazy to think that you either have it or you don't. That's like saying, well, you should be able to sit down at a piano and play a piece by Bach, or you'll never be able to play. And that's just crazy to me.
Yeah, and that's why there's this thing called practice. That's why there's rehearsal. That's why,
Yeah, and especially here, I mean, and also I will say, having taught improv and seeing people get better. Now, will they become like, stars? Will they become the best in the world?
Well, no, because you have to have opportunity, and there's so many things that go into play.
Too many variables.
Yeah.
But you can get better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I definitely think so, but I just found that interesting, the notion of Second City, will sometimes, like, oh, that person's not a star.
And that's my perspective, and they may totally disagree, but I have seen many talented people languish in that building and other theaters there. I also felt like at IO, I was not considered talented.
And that sucks too, because when you have those big name schools and stuff like that, it really, it can get, like, if a place like that doesn't, falling all over you, it can really affect your ego.
Well, that's the thing. And so I really I felt like I peaked in Chicago. I was doing 8 improv shows a week at different theaters. I was teaching at all different theaters. I was privately
and you weren't
coaching.
Miserable.
Wait, I wasn't what?
You weren't miserable.
Oh, miserable. I thought you said visible. I was like, well, I don't know how else.
You were invisible back
I wasn't.
Then, yeah.
And Chicago's like, it's my heart. It's such a lovely city. It's an easy city to fall in love with and to stay in and to kind of do. But I realized if I didn't make a change, I would wake up at 50 and be there. And I was like, I can't do that. That's not what I want. So, I just wanted a bigger market, because Chicago had 3 casting directors and one of them hated me. So I was like, I got to get out of there.
Why did one of them hate you?
Well, I don't know why they hated me. They refused to call me in. Once they called me in and said, we're casting a plus size, it's this. And I said, oh, actually, it's not a plus size, but I was like, I don't wear that size. And they were like, well, can you try? And I said, no. And then they never called me in again. And they're notorious for being not fun. But like, I was like, this is stupid. Why am I in a town with a couple theaters who I feel, and that, look, they may have been like, oh, we really thought she was talented. That's fine. But I felt like I had kind of bumped up against the ceiling of what I could achieve there.
And at this point, your instincts have always been pretty much dead on, or you've learned to trust your instincts.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a self-starter. You know what I mean? Like, in terms of my creative career, nobody was plucking me out and pulling me onto really cool teams.
You were having to pave your own way every time.
Yeah. So I was no longer willing to wait around until people thought that I was valuable or worthy. So I was like, fuck it, I'm moving.
So this is great, actually, because we do have people that listen to this that are in different states and are moving out here and stuff like that. So once you made that decision in your head, what were the steps that you did to get out here? Then
it was kind of easy. Then I came out here and looked at neighborhoods.
Like in your mind, were you like, I gotta, of course, find a place to live, a place to work, a place to study? Was it all that kind of stuff?
I didn't even. So work was kind of easy because I talked to. Fortunately, I was still traveling for Second City, and there was a lot more work out here on the West Coast. So like the first 6 months that I moved out here, I was still working pretty frequently for them on the B2B side, and still traveling. Like, I moved here, and a month later I went to China and Australia to work, like, on a big gig. So like I was doing okay on that. For me, it was about finding a place to live, renting out my place in Chicago, and setting a date and going and telling my family and telling my friends. And truly the hardest part is leaving Chicago, because that is such a wonderful city to just feel comfortable and safe and
in your mind. Were you like, oh, I'll be back in a couple years? Or
I didn't know. So like I put a bunch of stuff in storage. Like I didn't bring my Grammy's tea set and my grandmother's, antique wicker chairs.
Are they out here now?
No, I can't get. They're in a 5x10 unit, and I can't get anybody who's moving from Chicago to LA to bring them.
And
I tried to look at a pod, and it was crazy. Pods are so expensive.
Yeah,
the pod was going to cost the same amount that it cost me to move my entire apartment out here.
That's why they look so cool. They're really expensive.
And then I moved. Not having like a full-time job in Chicago really facilitated that, because I was in control. Yeah. I was self-employed, and I had already lived that self-employed lifestyle. Do you know what I mean? So I think for a lot of people, like quitting a jobby job and moving out here,
it would kill most people.
It's too hard. But to become, I quit my consulting job in August of 2001. So I had been living this patchwork life of figuring it out for, over a decade. And so I was very comfortable in that.
So you got out here, and then what were your steps once you got out here? Did you casting director workshops?
I did. I mean, there's a lovely Chicago community of improvisers out here, and everybody has like a lot of suggestions. So I was doing casting director workshops. Alan Hooper was my very first. I feel like within a couple weeks I was in them.
So, and Alan Hooper, he's the CD assistant over at Modern Family, right? With Jeff Greenberg.
Yeah, and then I took Jill Alexander's commercial class, which was great. And
what was the things you noticed about Los Angeles that first while you were here? Like, what surprised you?
Just about the industry or about the city?
Both.
People litter here an awful lot. I think when people think of California, they imagine Northern California in terms of attitude. But Southern California, I have seen more people roll down their window at stoplights and throw out trash here than I have in my entire life around the world.
I've seen like 5 people poop on Hollywood Boulevard in the last month.
Well, listen, that's fair. Sometimes you got to go.
I mean, it's just, I know. I mean,
and that's all been on Donald Trump's star. I forgive that.
All bets are off.
All bets are off. But I have seen more litter here. And I expected, coming from the Midwest, where like I was composting in my home. Every restaurant I went to, I asked if the eggs were cage free. And people were like, "What does that mean?" You know what I mean? Like, I expected to fit in more here. Yeah. And then when I would see somebody just in front of me on the stoplight, like throw their in and out trash out of their window, I was like, "What is happening?"
And then what in terms of the business side of things surprised you?
Yeah, I have a philosophy that I don't know if people appreciate. And I'm just going to be honest, because it's just you and me.
Yeah.
No one's listening.
Nope.
After being here for a while and after going through the intensive here, I made a decision, and I felt like, for better or for worse, in Chicago, we are really fortunate to do lazy comedy. And by that I mean, especially in improv, most of our shows are to students and people who are familiar with improv, and they don't mind so much if it takes you a full 90 seconds to get to what the scene is about. But I feel like out here, there's not a lot of tolerance for that, which is why I think UCB did better than IO, because it's
because they find it immediately.
Yeah. And I was like, you know what? I understand why. It's a company town. Everybody's looking for how they can like package and sell something and like, how can I use this? And that's okay. And it just made me realize, and I was open when I came out here. I've had some friends who come out here and feel like, I'm here from Chicago, book me, like what, here I am. But I really came out here and was like, what do I need to do? Because I didn't come out here with reps. I didn't come out here with anything, with no connections, just friends. And I am a hard worker, and I was ready to work. And one of those things I realized was like, okay, I have to rethink the way that I do comedy, because and it didn't bother me. A lot of my friends, I think, got mad about that. And like, there's a sense that like your credits don't transfer, which also is kind of annoying. But also, I didn't care. I didn't care.
I mean, was it hard to adjust?
Yeah. Yeah. My best friend is still in Chicago. She had her baby shortly after I moved. But I had my dogs, and they love California. So kind of having them to like focus and put my energy on and making sure they were okay, I think was easy right at the beginning. And then,
how did you find Leslie?
So,
and Jill, you've been here how many years now? You've been here
5.5.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Jill Alexander always recommends her. Everybody was talking about her, and I had friends who'd been through here, and so I got my triage. It's now intro to work session in September, and I moved in the middle of May, so it was kind of quick.
Yeah.
And then I started in October. So last month was my 5-year anniversary here.
Wow.
Yeah.
God, well, and you're already teaching one of the biggest classes here. So what did you like about Leslie? What did you think? What do you think was different about her?
I'll tell you what. That first night of intensive, about 40 minutes in, I literally sat there and thought, how hard would it be for me to pack everything up and go home?
Wait, why? What was it?
Because she was talking, and what I love about Leslie is that she uses whatever has just happened. She's not, in some senses, she's still teaching the stuff that she needs you to know. That stays the same, but how she teaches it changes because of whatever just happened. So she was talking about like how hard it is, and like it's not easy, and it's not just if you're good. Like you have to know somebody, and you have to. And I was like feeling like I knew no one, and I knew no one in the industry, and I was like, oh, I'm so fucked. I literally sat on the couch up in the yellow room, that old couch, and I was like, I have to move home. I was so scared. And
I made a horrible mistake.
But then we started working the curriculum, and it made perfect sense to me. And I was like, oh, well, no wonder. Okay, this makes sense to me. I understand this text. And I had been writing sketch and writing, so I understood like why my stuff wasn't working as well. Like I was seeing it from a writing perspective and from an acting perspective, and like from having directed sketch and all that shit. I was like, oh, I was loving it.
So when you put your attention on your work instead of your bad actor thoughts, that actually is where like gold can happen.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't mind hard work. Like hard work doesn't bother me. So having to do rehearsals every day, I was that person who was like, if you show up late again, I will write it in the report.
So guys, the intensive, what she's talking about, the intensive especially, you have to rehearse 3 hours a day, every day with your class in between these 6 or 7 hour classes.
You get to rehearse.
You have the privilege to rehearse. And a lot of people are blown away, but Leslie always says, if you can't put 3 hours a day into your acting, you might not want to be an actor.
Yeah. And now that I teach an intensive, I do love kind of seeing that mind shift from the very first day where people are looking at their schedules and they're like, this is going to be impossible, to the end where we ask them like, do you feel like this helped improve your craft? Do you feel like this is something you would want to continue? And they do.
Do you think a lot of LA actors even consider it a craft? Do they even know? Like sometimes I feel like then they come here and then they realize it's a craft. Because I think a lot of actors don't have, the improv background or a theater background or something. So they've been told they were pretty or they were funny, and then
or like me, pretty funny.
Pretty funny. But no, it's just interesting to give these people tools, and either it's like fight or flight kind of.
Yeah, and listen, I do not have a theater background. I have a sociology background and an MBA, right?
Yeah.
So I can talk about what I understand, and I have taken acting classes, but what it works so well for me is because it's actionable stuff. And like in 2018, TV and film, you don't have months to rehearse. You don't have days to put together, a sense memory, or months is what it would probably really require.
Well, even that first day on Shameless, you're having to hit a mark, do a monologue, you're having to do all of these things.
Yeah.
So you actually need something in your toolkit to be able to,
Yeah, and I understand it would be really hard for somebody who has invested maybe, let's say, 6 years of their life towards getting an arts degree and considering it an art versus a craft. But having worked now on quite a few sets, it is so craft, because you can call it art all you want, but on take 27, when the boom goes in the shot, I really hope that your art is there. But because if your craft isn't there, man, that's a really long, tough day for everybody on set.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Because you're part of a team, and then you're letting other people down, and there's but at the same time, you want to stay in it.
Can you be mad? Like if your art only shows up for you on the first 4 takes, well, you got to turn it around and maybe do a third setup. And then on each one of those, what if there's 16 takes? Well, now you're talking about, I have to do math really quickly, 48 takes.
Yeah, the glamour leaves very quickly after the third take.
Is your art really there?
Yeah.
Right? Like, is that art? Is that art 48 takes in a 3-hour span? I don't know. For me, it's craft. Can I execute? Can I be dependable? Can I be somebody that anybody on that set would say, I would definitely work with her again? Because for me, that's what this job is. It's a job. And mostly, I view it as, has really shifted my mind, the job is booking the job, right? The job isn't on set. What do you mean? The job is the audition, because...
Yeah, how do you view auditions?
That's my job. My job is to go in the room and win the room, right? And booking the work is like a bonus.
What do you consider winning the room?
That they would invite me back. Yeah. That they would call me back in. Or that I...
Are you one of the people that says, like, auditions start the moment I walk in that room, or the moment I start the scene?
Oh, the moment I walk in the office.
Yeah.
I mean, if not... Actually, I would probably say the moment I get the audition, right? Because all of my prep work is part of that. I just feel like if I tie my success and I tie work to the actual working on set, like your role got cut out of The Office.
Yeah.
But you booked the role.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, so for me, the job is booking the job.
But how do you not put so much pressure then on that audition if that's your job?
It's really hard. I have to realize that what I control in the room is about 2% of the outcome. Truly, just 2%.
Just 2%.
Just 2%.
What's the other 98%?
I mean, my God, is how many co-stars have they already cast? Does a guest star, somebody already that they've cast look like me? Do I look too much like somebody who's a series regular? Did they have somebody like me last week? All that stuff is so far out of my control, right?
And you don't really know. You can't ask them in the room. Like, hey, guys.
That's not my job.
Yeah.
That's their job.
Yeah, okay.
Right? And also, like, do I remind them of an ex that they hate? Not my problem, not my job, not my fault. You know what I mean?
Did you learn this over a period of time, or is this always how you've treated auditions?
No, I've learned that over a period of time. Because, of course, it's too hard when you start auditioning. You think, like, why didn't I get that? I did what I wanted to do, or, I didn't do what I wanted to do, so I didn't get that. And you don't know. You just don't know. You don't know. So I have 2% of control over the outcome of the decision, and that 2% is what I do in the room and how I prepare my work. And that's what I'm going to focus on. Why am I going to spend my energy focusing on things that I literally have no knowledge of or control over? Because that's a waste of energy. I'd rather put that energy into making the most accurate choices that I can, into running it with another person, into having character thoughts, right? Rather than like, I wonder if that person's going to, like, that doesn't help me. It doesn't serve me.
How do you prepare your work?
So when I get an audition, first I am very grateful.
So first it's the gratefulness.
Sure.
And
First I make a small bonfire. I check everything to make sure that like there's no conflicts and availability. And then if I take a look at how long it is and like what's going on and see if I need to coach with somebody.
Yeah, because that's the thing too. I always think about like, because we get these auditions, usually like the day before for the next day. You might already have plans that night. You might already have
but that's my job.
Okay, so that's what I'm saying. So that's part of it, right? So you get in there and you're like, okay, I've got to toss everything aside. This is my job right now.
Yeah, I used to feel like LA flaky was the thing, but now I'm LA flaky because if I get an audition, I will call you and be like, I'm sorry, I can't come.
So that's part of it, right?
The job is getting the job.
It's not like I can trust I've done this enough. I got this.
I mean, look, maybe some people feel that way and maybe they book work all the time. I don't have 1 million Instagram followers. I am in a very narrow category where there's not a lot of roles that are written specifically for me. I like to work.
Yeah.
So I take it seriously. Do you know what I mean? Like that's what I moved across country away from my family. I mean, every time I go home, my 107.5-year-old grandmother says to me, do you ever think you're coming back? So like, what a fucking asshole would I be if I got this opportunity and then was like, no, I'm supposed to go hang out with friends and not prepared it.
How dare your grandma give you that kind of guilt trip?
I love her so much and she's welcome to give me as much guilt as she wants. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, totally.
She misses me.
Yeah.
And I chose to move away from her so that I see her 2 times a year.
Yeah.
Do you know? And so what a jerk would I be if I was like, I'm just going to wing it.
Yeah.
Fuck
no, I mean,
me.
that's, but see, I think that's what people need to hear too, is that there is a lot of work that's involved in this. You know?
I think there's so much smoke and mirrors in Hollywood and it's kind of how it persists, but I don't like the message that we send to people, which is you come out here, you go to auditions, you book work. No. You come out here, you freak out because rent is incredibly high. You're going to spend possibly upwards to 50% of your income on rent, which is insane.
Yeah.
Or you're going to spend a lot of time commuting, or you're going to live with a lot of people. And then you have to find representation. Now, I had friends who came out here with rep, and they were very, very lucky.
How did you find your representation? And have you been through a lot of different representations?
Yeah. So I found my manager first, and I love her so much.
No, I think I follow her on Instagram.
Epic talent,
yes,
Michelle Large.
Yes.
She just got me because we sat down, we had a meeting, and the first thing she said is, I have to tell you, I love Rick and Len Fix Shit in Your House, which is a web series I did in Chicago. And the minute she said it, I was like, in my mind, I was like, okay, we're going to work together, but I'm going to put up this facade of let's have this meeting because she understood my comedy. Yeah. And she was like, I see you doing all sorts of things. And I was like, you're it. And so she's been a champion for me and I love her so much. And she goes to the mat for me and she just pushes and pushes for me. And then she helped me find my first agent. And then now my agent, I'm with Clear Talent. And so like, she's fantastic for me. She's my number one fan. I love her.
And that's so hard to get, though. It's so hard
to get.
It's hard to get representation on top of that, but it's even then harder to get representation that really likes you.
But let me say this. She comes from a business background. I come from a business background. So I come to play. When she says, can you get me this? I get it for her. When I came to the meeting, I came prepared. I had headshots. I had resumes. I had, potential looks because I had just shot with Teo and Juliet. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I came out here with a purpose and a plan. And I wasn't just kind of dicking around.
So funny, I have to get new headshots in the next couple of weeks. And I spent the last week... I mean, this is crazy. You get into acting, you're thinking like, okay, it's the arts, and I want to read, and then you're like, I'm literally just putting outfits together. I'm literally putting outfits and putting colors up to my face.
But it's not just that, right?
No, it's not. But that's what I'm saying. Like, I'm now obsessed with finding the right outfit and finding the right look and finding, and like man, you're putting a lot of pressure on this one day, and just like everything, there's a checklist of, okay, take this to the dry cleaner, take this. And
Yes.
this last 2 weeks has been, I feel like I'm in like a clothing business,
Yes. Yes. It's so, running your acting empire, I don't know whoever calls it that, but it is very intrusive in your life, and it requires you to know a lot about a lot of things.
Well, do you ever think about? I always think about because you do commercial agent too. I mean, are you?
I'm repped across the board, but
Yeah.
I'll be honest, my type does not get a lot of commercial work, or at least I don't.
I figured you totally would, but I always think about Daniel Day-Lewis if he had not been so successful earlier in his career, having to come to Los Angeles and do what we do. And I just always like to picture Daniel Day-Lewis at a commercial audition.
Or figure out which shirt he would wear.
Oh, damn it, the plaid is not working, I always picture that of him having to really stick it out in the boonies like all of us
chosen
actors.
the corduroy.
Yeah, it's like him in traffic on the 101, just Yeah.
But even what you're talking about, and just so if anybody's listening, they don't understand. When your agent or your rep submits you onto breakdown services for a role, there's like a 1x3 thumbnail image.
Yes, it's gonna pop.
Maybe even 1x2. And that's your headshot reduced to a tiny, tiny image. And that's hopefully what the agent will click on when they see you. So you have to make those tiny amounts of pixels work for you. You have to plan what you wear to sell your essence so clearly. And I learned that in Jill Alexander's workshop. And she was looking at my thing and she's like, this isn't doing for me. I don't know what this shirt says. I don't know. And I was like, what are you talking about? But then when she helped me, I hired her.
Yeah, because you're like, the shirt, it fits. Isn't that what we need?
She had a business and I hired her to help me find representation, and I got commercial rep through her. But she picked out all my outfits for my things, and I had great looks. Do you know what I mean? And I did a cold submission. I got 5 meetings and I had 2 offers and I took 1.
I think a lot of actors too, and I've been like this at times, apologize for trying to move further ahead.
Which is also why I like being in LA, because everybody talks about their career in LA. And in Chicago, there's a little bit of at least when I was there, it was a little bit of but I don't really want to do that.
But don't you think that's a kind of a Midwestern thing too?
Yeah.
And also I don't want to impose too much. I'm not.
Also think about it in an improv sense.
Yeah.
If I'm in a team of 10 and I'm constantly talking about how I want to be a movie star,
you're not being a part of the team.
Fuck you. I wouldn't want to improvise with you. Do you know what I mean? So it's much more. It's just nice to be here. And there's, you move out here and you're like, every billboard you see is in the industry. It's TV and film and it's just nice. It's a company town, and there's something very satisfying and soothing to me moving here and realizing yes, everyone here is unabashedly working towards their dream, and I also get to be a part of that.
So, in the last couple of years, your work, you seem to really be hitting stride.
Yeah.
You did Modern Family, This Is Us, just a big thing on Grey's Anatomy.
Yeah.
I mean, it really seems to be, what do you attribute all that to? Is that all the work? Is it everything all together?
I think it's everything all together. I feel like in the beginning, every audition I got, I would coach. And every major audition I got, I would coach with Leslie, just because I was I didn't have a lot of opportunities. So when I got them, I wanted them to count. So even if I didn't book it, I wanted to win the room, because that's my job. I just approached my job as booking the job, right? So I feel like that really helped me, and that I developed a real steady and beneficial relationship with casting directors. They knew they could rely on me. They could count on me. I would come in and I would deliver a solid audition. So that helped. And then because of that, when I would get submitted, I would get brought in and I would get more reps, because auditioning is such a weird thing too. It's so crazy. I remember I had a producer session for a co-star on a show that I really wanted to be on, and I was very excited about it. And they were running behind, and they were doing the best that they could. And this is no slam on them, and I'm not saying this to be poor me. But when they called my name, there was a 10-second walk from the waiting room to the door. And this is what the woman said to me. She goes, "Hi, Lisa, how are you doing today? I'll tell you what, when we walk inside, there's going to be 3 people in front of you and 2 people on the side. The one in the center is going to be reading for you. I'm going to be running the camera. You're going to be stepping on your mark. It's red. And then we're going to go." And she opened the door and she goes, "Hey, this is Lisa." And I literally was like, "What? Hi." Is that her fault that she did that? No. Is it my fault that I didn't take it all in? No. But afterwards, because I kind of fumbled a line and I wasn't really listening because I was kind of like, I was trying to replay everything she said. But after I was like, okay, I've had that experience now. That won't faze me when that happens again. And I feel like auditioning is just kind of like
That's interesting that you allow that. It's a really great way of thinking about it, of like, oh, I'm glad I had that experience. I won't do that again. You know, a lot of people will then choose to keep getting rattled by the same thing over and over again. And they're almost scared, like it's like a war they went through, like, oh no, it's happening again, you know?
Well, this is a thing where I have to be very grateful to my parents because I grew up in what's called a teachable moment household. So every time something would happen, like an accident or we didn't get what we wanted, we would sit down and talk about like what happened, what led up to that, what would we do differently next time? And like it has its pros and cons, right? Like the pro is that now this thing happened. My brain is already working how to figure out how not to let that happen again. Like I have strategies. I'm like, it's okay for me to say, that was so much information. Hi, everybody. Who am I reading with? Nobody's going to be mad.
Yeah.
It's not my fault that they're running behind. You know what I mean? Or just to ask again, who am I reading? Or to say, give me 1 second and settle. I can do that. So that's the upside of a teachable moment. The downside is that I never really know what my best is because I always can figure out how I could have done it better. So I never really know like when I've done my best.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
I read that the other day of, instead of why is this happening to me, try to be like, what is this teaching me?
Yeah, yeah. A what versus a why.
Yeah.
Like, what do I need to do or what would be more helpful?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but I do find it really interesting that it does seem to be, you seem to be clicking on all cylinders, is that things seem to be coming together.
I think my team is great right now. I feel like I understand what I need to do in the room. I've had enough auditions where I don't get rattled. I have relationships with casting directors. I have, I know my role. I know my job. I've done good jobs on set, so I know casting directors have gotten good feedback on that. You know what I mean? Like,
is it enough though? Is it? Because you glance over your resume, you're like, oh, you're working a lot, but still, it probably most actors will be like, it's definitely not enough.
Oh my God, no, it's never enough.
Yeah.
Like I'm broke.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I had a great year. You know what I mean? Like I would say in the last 16 months, I've worked on 10, 12 sets. Like that's amazing.
That's huge.
But it's not enough money to live on. And, I'm trying to make this shift from co-stars to guest stars. And, that means that I may have to turn down auditions. That means that...
Was Grey's Anatomy your first?
It was my first network drama.
Yeah.
Actually, This Is Us was my first network drama, then Grey's. But I have a guest star coming out on a drama, and I just shot something that'll come out in 2019 that was super exciting and super fun. And so I have some things that are still coming out, but I'm getting more into the drama, which I love. That's all my manager, because she's like, you can do this. And so we're pushing, and my agents are submitting me for that. And I just love that she's always seeing me as multifaceted.
What do you do in that downtime when you're not getting the opportunities, when they're not coming as frequent as you want?
I cry. Just kidding.
Perfect.
I listen, I'm human like everybody else, even though I've had combined group and individual therapy of over 2 decades. I get sad. I worry. I freak out. I stress out. I have dreams where Leslie is yelling at me. I
don't even have to have dream. Like she just will yell at me.
Sure,
right?
that happens too.
You don't even, guys. If you want that dream, just come to Leslie. She will yell at you. Yeah.
Actually, I just had this dream the other night where we were trying to build this train track to move these giant trains, like trains for people who were 40, 50 feet tall, and we couldn't get them to go. There was no track. It was all gravel. And
are the trains multicam sitcoms? Is that what that is?
I feel like what it was is that those were my goals.
Yeah.
And that right now it feels like I don't know how to move them forward. And this has been Dreamscape.
Yeah.
Ryan and Lisa. No, I just feel like it's terrifying. You know what I mean? It's terrifying to not know.
So, but it seems like you're a kind of person that takes fear though, and actually does something with it.
I mean, I would love to say I do that every day.
But
listen, Ryan, there's a lot of days where I just watch 90 Day Fiancé.
that's what I'm saying. We both love 90 Day Fiancé. I don't know how more people aren't watching 90 Day Fiancé.
Everybody needs to watch it. And right now, the only one who's normal is the 19-year-old with fake boobs.
Yes.
That's the only normal person right now.
My whole point, though, is that because I know you created your own web series,
yes.
too.
I do believe in creating your own content in the downtime because it does give you a sense of control over what's happening, which is that you have no control. I have no control over my career. I have 2% of control of what happens in the room.
Yeah.
And so this other, I have complete control over the content that I create. So I have a podcast coming out in January with my friend Misty. It's called Go Help Yourself.
Nice.
And it's about self-help books. And
what are your favorite self-help books?
I hate self-help books.
Oh, okay.
And she loves them, so we're like a perfect duo.
Wait, do you read the self-help books that you guys talk about?
We do.
And then,
I just have a problem with anybody telling me what to do. I have problems with authority, so just the whole concept.
Then
of
how
the
do you do
self-help book.
therapy and stuff?
Well, because that's a collaboration. If there ever were a therapist who was like, you have to go do this, I would be like, you have to find a new client because I am not going to work with you. No, I just feel like I need to create new things. Like I write. I'm trying to create some short films right now. Like I have to create content that makes me happy. And the hardest part for me with that is that releasing any kind of product and expectation with the end result of that, and just enjoy the process of creating something, because of course you want it to go viral, of course you want it to be successful, but you don't have control over that either.
You talk about no control. I mean, there's
zero control.
And you really can't there's no rhyme or reason to what hits anymore. If you look at YouTube and YouTube stars and bloggers, I mean, you would not be able to bet money on any of those people that they sometimes would have the audience that they have.
And on top of it, when I teach sketch comedy, I say to them, listen, nothing you write will ever be as funny as Surprise Kitty, and I'm sorry to tell you. But, or Charlie Bit My Finger, which has like 5 billion views. Like,
those are real.
You will never write anything as funny as that. So let it go and just try to write something that's good for you. Do you know what I mean?
But I think it's sometimes those like YouTubers and all that stuff is that they were so bad, but they didn't care because they enjoyed doing it. And then eventually it catches on at some point.
It's a whole, like on Instagram too. Now there's like Instagram comedy channels. And so they have videos that are under a minute. So it's like, listen, I appreciate the content that they're creating for this medium. Do I think it's great content? No.
I sometimes get, I think about that a lot, about especially Instagram and stuff, is that, you're trying to build an audience, supposedly. There are friends and family following us on there, but you're trying to build an audience. But now I notice there's a thing that a lot of actors have started doing, is that they'll follow thousands of people, and then 2 days later they'll unfollow people because they're hoping you follow them still. And I'm like, I don't know, I struggle with that in my head, because are you really building a real, true audience? You're not. You're just building somebody that thinks immediately that you're attractive in some way, so they follow you and then they forget to unfollow you because you unfollowed them.
I mean, the other part of it is that the reason that you want a lot of followers is because right now that's what you're told is important.
Because
right?
Actors now are like, I was filling out a thing the other day for commercial representation, and you have to put your Instagram handles and your Twitter handles, because they actually now in the rooms find out how many followers you have.
They also might look to see if you are like straight up alt-right on your stuff.
Straight up what?
Alt-right. They might want to know and weed some people out.
Oh, geez. Yeah.
But like, I mean, I find what's most valuable on those is interaction, right? It's more it's fine. You have 50,000 followers, half of them are bots, nobody cares. But if you have 50,000 followers, or if you have 10,000 followers, but like they're passionate and like they interact with you, and you have
the engagement,
6,000, 7,000 comments on every post. Engagement is currency, and like that's tough, but that's tough to get.
Yeah. And
everything has its yin and yang. So I'm interested to see how
it is. It's just a
goes.
different thing. I mean, once again, I'd love to see Daniel Day-Lewis run his Instagram account.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, you have to be in charge of your marketing, which is like your headshots, and that includes all of your clothing decisions. You can have people help you, obviously. You have to be in charge of your marketing in terms of like how you communicate and represent yourself on social media, your presence and your branding online. You have to build your brand.
But I think that's that's what's so interesting here about Leslie's too, is that, they really, she's all about the art, but she always points out it's business. It's show business. So, and that's the thing. A lot of actors are not equipped to think in a business mind. They almost feel like that's cheating on the art in some sense. And that's just not how you should look at things, because you're not going to end up booking nearly as much as you possibly could if you actually open yourself up to the business.
Yeah, which is why I think I'm so glad I started business and then came here first, because it doesn't hurt my feelings when I don't book a job. I understand that they're trying to look for the best fit. I understand that they're doing their job too. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't take it personal. I understand that it is my job to package myself in a way that makes me employable. I guess I feel very fortunate. Also, I feel like if I moved out here when I was 20, 21, right after school, I would have been dead within like 6 years. Like, I just feel like this town is too much for me personally, where I was at that point in my life. And so being here now, I'm able to really like put some distance and reach out. And I have such a strong group of support group of friends and people that I trust and love. Some are here, some are far away. And I can call them and when I'm having a tough day or when I feel like I screwed up, and they can remind me like, you've only been doing this for a short amount of time. You've only been in LA for X number of years. And, and it's okay. And just, we're not curing cancer.
What do you like about teaching though, about teaching new actors that are coming in?
So I taught improv and I taught sketch comedy in Chicago. And then of course I facilitated for years and years and years. So I've been doing facilitation or teaching of some sort for 15 plus years, maybe 18. And I love it. Facilitation is a very easy place for me to reside. It's like a zone of comfort and excellence. But I feel like with this, I like it because I'm still building mine, and like I learn new stuff all the time, and I love it. What I like teaching here is that with actors who are coming in and who are new to what we do here, is that what Leslie's always after is us changing our relationship with the paper, and that.
And the paper, you mean the scene, right?
Yeah, the text. And so I just feel like so many times actors get their scene and they just do a quick glance at the breakdown of their character and a quick glance of what's happening, and then they just kind of really look at their lines. They might read it, but they really are focusing on how they would say their lines. And when we do that, and when we just work on memorizing our lines, we just kind of cut ourselves off at the knees to understanding what the writer has done. Because, and I say this in class, it's fascinating to me. The writer has seen something in their head that doesn't exist in a physical plane. And they have somehow taken that out of their brain and put it into a two-dimensional space on a piece of paper. And our job is to take it off of that two-dimensional space and put it in a three-dimensional space that is exactly what the writer saw in his head that didn't even exist in the physical plane. That's hard.
Yeah. And
that
it sounds
hard,
so cool.
Right? So how do you do that if you don't take in everything that they've given you on the paper? Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah. I mean, I love, how it was, is that's your map. That's your map to the treasure, And if you really like, there's clues hidden in there. And we talk about that all here. Is like everything that you need is supposedly right on that page.
And I think when you allow yourself to see it the way the writer wants it versus the way you would like to do it or the way that you think you'll do it to get the job, I think that's where like the alchemy can happen, right? Like, that's when you do the audition and the writer who didn't even imagine you or imagine somebody completely different than you can look at your tape and say, that's fascinating. That's it, right? Or that's better than what I thought.
Yeah.
Or at least say, it's not what I want, but that's amazing.
How do you inject yourself into it? How do you inject your special something,
I think that's with point of view, because my point of view is going to be different than your point of view. Even though we both love 90 Day Fiancé, mine is going to be more, how horrible our country has fallen that this is like amazing TV.
Mine is like, how great.
I know. But we're both still going to have strong points of view about 90 Day Fiancé.
That's great. Point of view is so important.
Yeah.
In life, but life is, that's exactly what we're trying to imitate. You know?
And the specificity.
Yeah.
And I think that so often there's just a lot of people in general who are afraid of taking a risk or answering something. And I think improv gave me the gift of specificity. Because if you just have a general blah improv scene, it doesn't go anywhere. It's not fun to watch. You have to really carve it out. And so it's to take a risk and declare something, and something really specific and unique is fun. And you get comfortable doing that.
Do you, when you're preparing for your own auditions, we're a big a studio that, we want to know the thoughts behind each line. Mm-hmm. Do you, how much time do you put into finding the correct thought? Like,
I never say correct, I say accurate.
That's great. So why do you mean accurate?
Because there's no right or wrong thought. Because again, I'm trying to create this 3-dimensional representation off a 2-dimensional instruction from a thing that doesn't exist in a physical plane. So how is there one right thought? There isn't. But there's more accurate thoughts than inaccurate thoughts. So I'm always going for the most accurate thoughts.
And what is that? I mean, is it just, define the most accurate. Is it just couch time? Is it just...
No. So for me, it's based on what Dan Sanders Joyce calls the Holy Trinity, which we talk about all the time here, which is genre, relationship, and given circumstances. So I can always get it more and more and more and more and more accurate. And I like to make my thoughts as relationship-y as possible. And I like to make them as jam-packed.
Give me an example of a relationship-y thought.
Well, it's not. It's about you. It's about the person that I'm talking to.
So it really is injecting your past, how you feel about that person, the point of view of that person.
Yeah.
And that's going to, of course, feed the line.
Yeah. Versus just kind of having a general thought or like a look.
Yeah.
Or like, come on.
I'll say it funny. Yeah.
Yeah. Or even just doing the thought because I'm supposed to do the thought. Right?
Yeah.
And also, I never work on it alone. I think that was one of my big light bulb moments here is because I've been in Monday night almost the entire time I've been here. And we had this, we're working on this scene for class, and it was kind of like a very vague audition that had been given. They wanted a lot of improv or whatever. And we all kind of missed the opportunity that we could turn on every line. And Leslie was like, why did you guys miss this? And I was fuming on the couch. And she saw it, and she's like, what's up, Lisa? And I just was like, when am I going to learn this? Like, when am I going to figure this out so that I wouldn't have known that? And she just said to me, well, you're never going to figure it out for your own audition because money's on the line. And then that clouds your way. So you have to work with somebody. Like you can't just do it on your own. You have to call up your classmate. Like that's why I love working in a community here. There's always somebody to call. There's always somebody, in my class, we shoot out and at least 4 or 5 times a week, somebody will say, I have an audition. Can I run it over Skype? You have to have somebody else's eyes on it. Cause if it's bookable work, like I already have too much skin in the game. I can't see it objectively.
Oh, that's great.
So
and art isn't created in a vacuum. Like you can't, I love sometimes, what somebody's going to tell you to do might not be the right suggestion or thought, but it's going to then spark something in your mind about like, oh, what if I tried it like this?
Yeah.
What if I did this? So then it becomes this really nice give and take of finding something together that you couldn't, or you might have found it eventually, but you can find it quicker working with people.
Yeah, especially the way that we work here with Socratic coaching, right? Is that we always ask questions so that you don't feel stupid. You're not told like, do it like this. And also, that Leslie has created that way so that you never need a director. If you get on set and you have a director who won't talk to you or who is not a good director or who is kind of freaking out or in their own whatever. And also, as a co-star, you rarely get direction.
Yeah, guys, that'll shock you when you start booking your own work. Is that you realize on TV they're not going up and like, I liked what you did on that first part. What's going on
your
inside
line,
on that?
On your 2-word line.
No, they're literally like telling like, point the camera here, shoot this, shoot that. Okay, let's move it on.
They have so many more things to think about than you, so you have to take care of yourself. So you have to kind of listen to what they're saying and intuit what you need to do.
Yeah.
If you get direction at all, and so I love being able to kind of take care of myself in that way too. I don't know. I feel like studying here has really prepared me for the working world of TV and film. I feel like studying here has given me a group and a community of people that I can call upon and that I trust and am happy to work with and help them on their stuff and have them help me on my stuff. And I just feel like I'm constantly learning, and it's not like there's new and newer things. It's just the stuff that we need to do. You just have to keep working on.
Yeah.
Monologues always build. And I'm, eventually I do that naturally, but sometimes I forget, and I need somebody to remind me in a way that isn't like, you dummy, why aren't you building your monologue? They say, could you build your monologue? And I go, yeah, I should. Thank you.
Well, this has been amazing. I couldn't have said, this was exactly what I was hoping it would be. Where can we find you out there in the world?
I mean, on my couch watching 90 Days Fiancé.
So if you guys want Lisa's address, please write into the studio.
Thank you. I'm on all social media as It's Linke, ITSLINKE, and I think Facebook is just Lisa Linke.
And is that where you update your TV and film where we can see you and stuff like that?
Yeah, I have a website too, lisalinke.com.
And okay, cool. So guys, please follow her on social medias, check her out. I think you'll be very happy that you did. And also remember, she teaches and coaches here.
Yeah.
So if any of you guys are in LA looking for that, she is here along with so many other great actors and teachers. And if you haven't come to Leslie's, please come to Leslie's. And you're probably going to have her as one of your teachers. So
it'd be so fun. Also, every Sunday on Instagram at 12:30 Pacific, 3:30 Eastern, I have a show called Suggestion Sunday. And it's a free improv show that's live.
So how do you do that?
I love it. So I live stream on Instagram, and you can.
Did you say 12:30 to 3:30?
12:30 Pacific, 3:30 Eastern.
I thought you meant you do it for 3 hours. I was like, my God, you do a 3-hour live.
I'm a marathon improviser.
I'm doing a 24-hour live. Yeah.
Also, you guys need to know that we're holding these microphones, and I feel like Donnie and Marie.
This is great.
It's great noise, but it feels very.
There's like a red thing on here. It is very.
And as soon as I started singing, I went back to like my 70s TV, like amazing roots. Okay, so 12:30 Pacific, so then like 1:30 Mountain, 2:30 Central, 3:30 Eastern.
Yes.
And it's a free live streaming improv show. And it usually goes about 30, maybe 40 minutes. And what happens is I'm there and I do 60-second characters, and each week I have a special guest, and then they improvise with me for a little bit. And people it's the best improv show. You don't have to go anywhere. It's free. You don't have to pay, you don't have to have like a 2-drink minimum, and you don't have to wait around to the end to tell your friend that it was so good.
That's awesome.
Yeah, you can jump in and jump out. You can play along in the comment section. I invite people in sometimes.
See, you guys, that's what starting your own thing is. That's what starting your own opportunity. We have these tools and they're completely free to us, and you can actually use them as part of your art.
Yeah. And to my knowledge, I'm the only person doing this. So Instagram.
That's awesome. So definitely check that out. Yeah. You said at Lisa
Sundays. It's Linke.
At Lisa at It's Linke.
Yeah.
ITSLINKE.
It's super fun, and you can just improvise or play along in the comments, or come in and be like, "This is dumb," and leave, and have not left your couch or paid any money or had to look for parking.
Yeah, I mean, don't be a troll on it.
I'll take it. Listen, any press is good press.
Okay, thank you so much,
and
guys, please. Like I always say, if you're interested in finding out more about Leslie, go to our website, www.lesliekahn.com.
That beautiful new website.
I know. We got a brand new website. It's 2 years in the making, so it's our inauguration week on it. And you can call us at 323-969-9900.
We need to come up with a chime, a jingle for that.
Oh.
There's 773-202 boop 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 boop.
Oh, now I think
was that in Chicago?
Oh, because I think there's like a roto-root. Yeah, I'm forgetting.
800-800 Empire. You all know. You're singing along.
Okay, bye guys. That was our conversation with Lisa Linke. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I really, really love talking to her. So we will see you guys next time. Bye.